This is an important share, one which hopefully will help set the tone for many, many more to come. I'd like to share with you the purpose for this entire series. The purpose of this series of Shurim is not to convince you to agree with me. The purpose of these Shurim is for you to begin to grow, and to grow at work in your Avodas Hashem. And to do that, I implore you, don't treat these Shurim like you do any other. I have people who've, after I've given them or sent out a few shares and podcasts, after a few months of getting every single week a share, they stop. And then a few weeks later, they'll come to me and say, Rabbi, when are you releasing more Shiurim? No, I'm not. This is not like an endless supply of sources. And when you ask that question, then you're not growing. You're just learning. You're absorbing information, but you're not growing. You see, what I hope to do is give you enough that you can begin your own journey and your own growth. And you won't need me anymore. In fact, I'll bore you to death. And you won't want to hear another share because you've got your own way of resourcing, of finding things in the Torah, of building your own approach. A Torah approach to growing in business. And I'd like to share with you here briefly how to go about doing that. Relearn. Research. And reflect. And then start the process again. Relearn, research, reflect. I'll just elaborate on those. In the past few Shurim that you've listened to, I've given you lots of sources. I've spent time in all of those sources. I've thought about them. I've lived them. Now I've presented to you my understanding of what each of those sources are telling us to do as a Jew. But I encourage you, relearn those sources. You can find them on Sefaria. I've published them. They're also attached to the YouTube videos themselves, the source sheets. Go relearn them. Think about them. Challenge my approach. See if you can learn it differently. But the starting point is for you to relearn. Don't accept what I've said is true. I make mistakes all the time. The next thing is to research. From those sources, there is an endless flow of Torah sources that you can find. Look up the Gemaras that I quoted. Look up the Psukim that I quoted. Look at the other Meforshim on those Gemaras or on those Psukim, and they'll reference other sugyas in the Gemara. Go look those up. The amount of research that you can get from the few sources that we've learned together is endless, and start to build up your own library of Ma'amorei Chazal, of Psukim you never knew, of Rishonim on those Psukim and Achronim on those Psukim which you never knew, and start to develop a broad library of sources that will speak on this topic of Chemdas Mammon. And then, very importantly, reflect. Sit down again with a piece of paper and think, why do I work? And now do it a little bit deeper than you did before. Think of the times at work when you changed your first job. Why did you choose that over the other ones that were available? When you were in your job and you moved roles, what excited you about the change in role? Why did you turn down the other role that was presented to you? Why did you leave your job? Why did you stay in a job that you were so unhappy in? Go deep into times at work when you made decisions and think, why was I doing that? What was the driving force of the decisions, if I can pull a thread through them all? And begin to understand yourself. and then relearn, research, and reflect again. You have months of work on your hands if you're committed to the journey of growing. And believe you me, that process will be much more enjoyable, much more rewarding than listening to another whole host of shiurim from me or from any other rabbi, because the journey becomes personal. It becomes your journey to find Hashem's way to guide you to find Him through work. And that's the Chovos Levavos which we started off with. When you make the Torah the light that guides your path and your decisions in life, you open yourself up to an incredible world of Siyata Dishmaya, a relationship with Hashem, intervening in your life with incredible hashgacha, which you could never imagine. But it has to become your journey. So eventually you should know that these shurim will come to an end. But that means your journey's just begun. Take the sources that we've learned together, relearn them, use them as a basis to research further. And Sefaria is a great source for that. If you take the open source sheets which I put on the Sefaria, because there's cross references in every single source. And then reflect. Always bring it back to you. How do I process things? Why do I process things? Has the way of going to approach processing things shifted since I've engaged with these sources and these makoros and these shurim? And the best way to do that is at the end of that process, write down the answer again. Why do you work? And then go look at what you wrote before we started this series. And you will see a measurable gap. You have to. That's growth. That'll be the movement that Torah had in your life, in shifting the way you understand yourself and shifting the way you make decisions and what motivates you. And then you'll begin growing. The most incredible, fulfilling experience of them all. Growing from Torah. Enjoy the journey. It's going to be incredible.